So I welcome all of you for this Srimad Bhagavatam session. Today we'll be discussing from 4th Canto 8th chapter, the second half, that is 42 to 82. There are totally 82 verses in this chapter. So I think last week 41, at least half of them would have been done. So within this time frame, we'll try to complete it. Okay, let us start by taking in blessings of Guru Srila Prabhupada and Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayet. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality God of Narayana, unto Narayana Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nashta Prayesha Badreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nishtaki. By regular attendance in classes in the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of God, who is praised with cancelled songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. I'll just share the screen for the. We'll just recite one verse and then we'll go to the chapter. Sorry. So this 4th Canto 8th chapter from 42 to 82. Om Gyantamara Andasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmitamenna Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namaskar, Vishnu, 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 Namaskar, Vishnu, 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 So we'll take one verse, that is the 45th, that's a very, very important verse, wherein Ardhaman is telling about the form of the Lord, starting from 45 to 50. Prasadhamimukam shashvat prasanna vadane kshanam sunasam subhruvam charu kapolam surasundaram prasadhamimukam shashvat prasanna vadane kshanam sunasam subhruvam charu kapolam surasundaram. Any one Prabhu and Mataji, one Mataji can recite this.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, may I?
Yes, Mataji.
Prasadabhimukham shashvat prasanna vadanikshanam sunasam subhruvam charu kapolam sursundaram. Hare Krishna. Thank you,
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna. Any one Prabhu want to recite? Or one Mataji only, no problem.
Can I recite, Prabhuji?
Yes, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. प्रसाद विमुखं शाश्वत प्रसन्न वदनीक्षणं सुनासं सुब्रुवं चारु कपलं सुरसुन्दरं. Hare Krishna.
Yes, Hare Krishna. Okay, anyway, we'll be discussing the purpose and also need not read it again. So, because time is of essence, we have to do that. Okay. जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुरमाई की जय, नरसिंह भगवान की जय, पंच तत्व की जय, षड गोस्वामी की जय, गुरु परंपरा की जय, श्री प्रभुपाद की जय, श्री गुरुदेव की जय। नमो विष्णु 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 पुत्र शिव नमः शिव समिति नामे नमो विष्णु विष्णु भक्ति विधान स्वामी जय श्री कृष्ण हरे कृष्ण. So I'm starting from actually verse number 42. So this chapter is entitled Dhruva Maharaj leaves home for the forest. So we will try to take some lessons from verse 42 to 82 are there, but some of these important verses I just take and discuss. See, when Dhruva Maharaj he requests Narada Muni, to advise him about a honest path, following which he could fulfill his material desire of achieving a position that is greater than his father and grandfather. So Narada Muni, being a very pure devotee of the Lord, instructs him. So in fact, from the verse number 42 onwards, Narada Muni starts instructing Dhruva Maharaj. So this verse, 44th verse, is a very beautiful verse. Pranayamena trivrta pranendriya manomalam shaner vyudasyaabhi adhyaye manasa guruna gurum. It says, after sitting, so it says, after sitting on your seat, practice the three kinds of breathing exercises and thus gradually control the life air, the mind, and the senses. Completely free yourself from all mental contamination and with great patience begin to meditate on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So here it is recommended to Dhruva Maharaj that he meditate on the Supreme Guru or Supreme Spiritual Master. The Supreme Spiritual Master is Krishna, who is also therefore known as Chaitya Guru. So this refers, Prabhupada says in that purport, this refers to the super soul who is sitting in everyone's heart, Chaitya Guru. And he helps from within, as stated in Bhagavad Gita, and he sends the spiritual master who helps from outside, without. Within is Krishna, without means outside is the spiritual master, which whom the Lord sends. The spiritual master is the external manifestation of the Chaitya Guru, or the spiritual master sitting in everyone's heart. Prabhupada further says the process by which we give up our thoughts of material things is called pratyahara, which entails being freed from all material thoughts and engagements. The word abhidhyayet, which is used in this verse, indicates that unless one's mind is fixed, one cannot meditate. So Prabhupada says the conclusion therefore is that meditation means thinking of the Lord within. Whether one comes to that stage by the Ashtanga Yoga system or by the method recommended in the Shastras, especially for this present age, Kali Yuga, to constantly chant the holy name of the Lord. The goal is to meditate on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. So when approaching the Lord for the material pursuits, right, we tend to lose our patience very soon. And Narad Muni has therefore very specifically instructed Dhruva Maharaj to be very patient. We are so impatient, in nature, that when we approach the Lord with some requests, we expect the Lord to fulfill our desires instantly. Everything is an instant world now. We don't bother to accept the reality that how much unworthy we are. Nor do we care to realize the supremacy of the Lord, or accept the fact that He can either grant you or withdraw His blessings based on His own sweet will. So such lack of patience will lead to unnecessary frustrations in our mind. See, these days the patience level has been gradually decreasing. And it's very important to realize the importance of patience. See, by the name of so-called advancement in technology, right, people have only become more and more impatient. So even about maybe say 20, 30 years ago, there was a concept of standing in the long queues, right, to get provisions from the stores or to withdraw or deposit money in the bank. Nowadays, with the advent of credit cards, ATMs, mobile banking, instant cash, people are deprived of even simplest austerity of standing in queues. So much so that if the ATM machine fails to give the cash, people immediately become wild. We just don't want to wait to get anything. Rather, we have become so much addicted to get everything instantly. Even in the case of cooking, some 30 to 40 or 50 years back, women used to grind grains manually using mortars and then use the flour or dough to prepare delicious, healthy, fresh food items at home. Now they talk about healthy food, but I don't know whether it's healthy or not. But here they prepare. It's very fresh. And in Bhagavad Gita also says, after cooking, within 3 hours you should consume. But now we keep in fridge, refrigerator, so many things. Over time, what happens? These mortars were replaced by grinders and mixies. And now people have become so lazy, impatient to even use these electronic appliances at home. And have started to go in for instant food, which can nowhere compete with the healthy, fresh food preparations made at home. See, apart from the fact that we need to set the right example for the younger generation to follow, we should also remember that for our own benefit, we need to give up this habit of instant food. If we neglect to change these habits, then they get deeply engraved in our hearts and we would hardly realize the value of and importance of being patient, be it spiritual or for material endeavors. See, in the pastime of Dhruva Maharaj, we find that when he was insulted by his stepmother Suruchi, he went to his mother Suniti and complained about the injustice done to him. So, as an ideal mother, Suniti advised him not to be envious of his younger brother, but to go to the forest and take shelter of Krishna. So, taking her words very seriously, Dhruva Maharaj, although only about 5 years old, he left the palace and went to the forest all alone. Now, seeing Dhruva Maharaj's determination to see the Lord, Krishna sent Narada Muni to meet Dhruva Maharaj first. So, Narada Muni first advised Dhruva, what did he advise? That it is not so easy to undergo austerities in the forest. So, your small child should return back home to the palace, to your mother. Be satisfied with whatever position Lord has placed you him. On hearing this, Dhruva Maharaj very honestly accepted Narada Muni that although whatever he has advised is correct and good, because I am converted by ignorance, very much hurt by Suruchi's words. But Dhruva Maharaj said, but I will not be able to take up your advice now. He said simply, now Dhruva Maharaj told Narada Muni, he simply wants to know a very honest path by which he can see the Lord Krishna and request him to give a position more exalted than any yet achieved within the three worlds by anyone, even by his fathers and grandfathers. Now, hearing this, Narada Muni very compassionately told him that whatever his mother had suggested is the right path. And that for all kinds of desires, be it dharma, artha, kama, and moksha, one must surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he told him to go to Madhuvan. So now he starts instruction how he should go about it. Asked him to go to Madhuvan, which is situated on the banks of Yamuna. Take bath in Yamuna thrice a day. Perform Ashtanga Yoga. Sit in a quiet place. Practice breathing exercise and gradually control the life air, mind, and senses. He then told that he should patiently meditate on the Supreme Lord. That patience, right? So in the 45th verse, Narada Muni beautifully describes the form of the Lord. So from 45 to 50, and we also 5-6 verses, Narada Muni is describing because Dhruva Maharaj doesn't know how the Lord looks like. So he's giving the form of the Lord so they can meditate on that form. So this Prasadi Bhumukham Shashvat Prasanna Vadanekshanam Sunasam Shubhrum Charu Kapolam Surasundaram. The form of the Lord is described in this verse. Whatever we just recited this verse. So the Lord's face, please hear, the Lord's face is perpetually very beautiful and pleasing in attitude. To the devotees who see him, he appears never to be displeased, and he is always prepared to award benedictions to them. His eyes, his nicely decorated eyebrows, his raised nose, and his broad forehead are all very beautiful. He's more beautiful than all the demigods. So when this is described by Narada Muni, we should focus, let's visualize, right? So in this verse, let us try to meditate on some of the qualities. Prasadhavi Mukham Shashvat and Prasanna Vadanikshanam. These two beautiful words. Prasadhavi Mukham Shashvat. Now, different people are of different nature. And spiritual master expertly engages each one of them in devotional service according to their nature. So here Narada Muni knew that Dhruva Maharaj was very anxious to get the benediction from the Lord. So to give him hope and hope and courage, to follow this path, the very first word he uses to describe the Lord is Prasadabhimukham Shashvat. Always prepared to offer causeless mercy or award benedictions. The second was Prasanna Vadanekshana. The Lord's face is perpetually very beautiful and pleasing in attitude. Lord is always beautiful. Whether he is in the form of a child or a young person or in the form of Varaha, Narasimha, Jagannatha, Lord's beauty is matchless. See, at the time of the Kurukshetra war, His age was 125 years. But still he looks like ever fresh young person, never yovana. He is always peaceful, happy, self-sufficient, and does not have any expectation from anyone. That is a good point, right? No expectation from anyone. And we are having sufferings and problems, agitation, and all because we expect. No expectation is the best expectation, actually. So the Lord is always pleasing to look, and therefore is very attractive to all and approachable by all. Whether it's a thief or a small child or a politician, the Lord smiles at everyone. See, the God gives, and forgives. Not to speak of the Supreme Lord. Even his pure devotees have this quality. So Narmani himself is a good example. He always has a pleasing attitude and is approachable to all living entities. Even demons like Kamsa, Hiranyakashipu, who are inimical towards the Lord, they are always happy to meet Narada, talk to him and take advice from him, in spite of the fact that Narada was the devotee of the Lord whom they hated. See, so irrespective of their age, Acharyas like Srila Prabhupada and all the Acharyas in the ISKCON system are all very pleasing and thus easily approachable by all. So by this pleasing nature, they are always young at heart and with full energy and enthusiasm, they are able to touch the lives of so many suffering souls and then bestow the benediction of Krishna Bhakti to all of them. We have also seen practically that happy and cheerful person looks very pleasing and young, despite their age. You might have seen that. Whereas if a person is having a lot of worries or having crooked thoughts about others, then even when he is young, he appears very old and displeasing to all. Our ancestors looked very young and active, even when they were old, because they led a simple, stress-free life. And all these qualities were inborn in them. So we understand the Lord is always prasanna, and so are his dear devotees. Now, how can we become prasanna? If we imbibe these qualities of being peaceful, having no expectation from others, not discriminating others, helping others without any motives, then by the mercy of Guru and Krishna, our nature will also become pleasing, and then we will become useful instruments in their hands. So we need to do, actually we need not do any external endeavor for this, right? If we sincerely do our sadhana, then Krishna will take care of removing all the anarthas. My Guru Maharaj used to say, we should be in prasanga. Prasanga means Prabhu's Sangha, to be in association of the Lord, and this prasanga will lead to prasannata. See, in the 46th verse, while describing the beauty of the Lord to Dhruva Maharaj, Narada Muni wonderfully says, Tarunam Ramaniyangam Arunashtekshanaadaram Pratashrayam Nirnam Sharanyam Karunarnavam. Narada Muni continued, he said, the Lord's form is always youthful. Every limb and every part of his body is properly formed, free from defect. His eyes and lips are pinkish like the rising sun. He is always prepared to give shelter to the surrendered soul. And anyone so fortunate as to look upon him feels all satisfaction. The Lord is always worthy to be the master of the surrendered soul, for he is the ocean of mercy. So this verse is actually describing the beauty of the Lord. And we can see that each and every word used in this verse to describe the beauty of the Lord is also beautiful. The word pranata means surrendered, and ashrayanam means one who is shelter of the surrendered. In this world, every one of us try or forced to surrender to someone, either at home or work or society. But when we surrender, neither are we perfect, nor the person to whom we try to surrender also perfect. Because we keep finding faults in them. We don't surrender to them. But the Lord is above all faults or defects. He is all perfect. But still, there is no tinge of pride in him. And is also ocean of mercy. Karunarnavayam, right? So Prabhupada in his purport to this verse very nicely explains. Everyone has to surrender to someone superior. That is always the nature of our living condition. At the present moment, we are trying to surrender to someone, either to society or to our nation, family, state, or government. The surrendering process already exists, but it is never perfect because the person or institution unto whom we surrender is imperfect. And our surrender, having so many ulterior motives, is also imperfect. So, as such, in this material world, no one is worthy to accept anyone's surrender. Nor does anyone fully surrender to anyone unless obliged to do so. But here, Prabhupada says the surrendering process is voluntary, and Krishna is worthy to accept the surrender. So, this surrender by the living entity occurs automatically as soon as he sees the beautiful, youthful nature of Krishna. So, Prabhupada very wonderfully emphasizes that surrender should be voluntary process. That surrender process begins as soon as we have the beautiful darshan of the Lord. In Srirangam, Sripad Ramanujacharya took a person who was very much attracted to some lady. He took him to in front of the Lord, and as soon as that person had the beautiful darshan of the Lord, immediately realized that there could not be anyone more beautiful than the Supreme Lord, and that he is the worthy one to be surrendered. Later, he became one of the dedicated and dearmost disciple of Ramanujacharya and the Lord. So, so as long as our eyes are in good condition, we should always use them properly in seeing the beautiful forms of the Lord, so that we surrender to Him automatically. See, when Dhruva Maharaj goes to the forest to find Lord Krishna, Narada Muni intercepts him, right? And showing his intense desire to see the Lord, he describes him all these beautiful transcendental form of the Lord. See, this form is not an imaginary representation, which can be made according to one's own conception, but it must be based on the authentic description of the Lord by the Acharyas and the Shastras. See, in various sections of Srimad Bhagavatam, Lord's form is so very nicely depicted. Here Narada Muni, but in various sections we can see Shukadev Goswami to Maharaj Parishit, Kapila Muni to Mother Devahuti, Narada Muni to Dhruva Maharaj, Lord Shiva to Pracheta, so many other places. So we can take advantage of these glorious descriptions of the Lord and try to meditate on the various parts of his transcendental forms as much as we can. So these forms of the Lord are made in 8 different elements, as described in Bhagavatam 11, 27, 12 by Lord Krishna himself. He says, the deity form of the Lord is said to appear in 8 varieties: stone, wood, metal, earth, paint, sand, the mind, or jewels. Except the mind, we can find the deity made of all other elements in the temples or places of worship. We take so much austerity to go to the temple, right? But really, we do not have the patience to stand in front of the Lord and have the darshan, transcendental form of the Lord, and also offer a few humble prayers of submission. We just wanted to make it a ritualistic activity. Take all the pain to go to the temples or dhams, move about just for a change of air, and then return back home to do the same old business of eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. Envy, pride, greed, anger, again back to the same. There is no change of heart actually taking place. Temple is the Lord's own home. Suppose we go to some friend or relative's home, we buy some gifts, go to their place, spend some time, pleasing time with them, offer them the gifts, try to help them with their household activities, and then return back. Similarly, when we go to the Lord's home, temple or dham, we should lovingly buy something offering for Him. Meditate on the beautiful form of the Lord. Offer some prayers from the heart. Do some seva like cleaning the temple hall or surrounding areas, making garlands, cooking for the Lord, preaching, or so many other such services. This will basically increase our humility and love for the Lord. And when humility develops, we will gain a natural attraction to behold the transcendental form of the Lord as much as we can. Then we can see the beauty of the Lord by having the darshan. But practically, we may not be able to do always see the forms of the Lord in the temple because neither do we stay within the temple, nor do we keep our eyes open 24 hours. So, to kindly help us in this regard, the form made in the mind is recommended. Now, this is usually practiced by advanced yogis or devotees. Devotee can as well do the same with the help of the causeless mercy of the Lord. See, one of the best ways to remember the Lord in the mind is by singing some beautiful shlokas from the Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, and other related scriptures, appreciating the beauty of the Lord. Prabhupada writes in his glorious purport to 3:28:30 in Bhagavatam, Manomayam is a carving of the form of the Lord within the mind. This is included as one of the 8 different carvings of the form of the Lord, which we saw before. It's not an imagination. Meditation on the actual form of the Lord may be manifested in different manners, but one should not conclude that one has to imagine a form. No. One advantage of the form of the Lord within the mind is that it can be invoked irrespective of time, place, and circumstances. Moreover, the mind is instantly purified by the Lord's beautiful form in pure goodness. The Lord is a person, and hence the meditation on the personal form of the Lord increases our attachment for Him. So there's 6 slokas, 4, 8, 45 to 60, giving the form of the Lord. We should always recite these slokas and meditate on these forms, just like as it was informed for Dhruva Maharaj. So the Lord is always ready, waiting to offer His costless mercy. Prasadi me mukham shashwat. His form, eyes, and face are always pleasing to behold. And by gazing at His pleasing form, we become pleased. Where can we get an easier way to become pleased? We spend so much money gazing at all the movie stars, sports stars, but because of the disturbed condition of the selection of the object, our mind is also ultimately disturbed. Say the 50th verse, another again beautiful form of the Lord has been described in Narada Muni. Kanchi kalapa pariyastam lasat kanchana nupuram darshaniyatamam shantam mano nayana vardhanam. The Lord is decorated with small golden bells around his waist. So when you visualize that, right, golden bells around his waist, his lotus feet are decorated with golden ankle bells. All his bodily features are very attractive and pleasing to the eyes. He is always peaceful, calm, and quiet, and very pleasing to the eyes and the mind. So these 3 words are very nice, no? Peaceful, calm, and quiet. When we say these words, only our mind gets calm, right? So in these verses, say especially 45, Prasanna Vadana, pleasing face. 46, Nirmanam, transcendently pleasing in all respects. And the 50th verse, Mano Nayana Vardhanam, very pleasing to the eyes and the mind. My Guru Maharaj, his Mahavishnu Goswami Maharaj, he says that Lord Krishna smiles at everyone. He would give the example of how different kinds of people come to the temple to take darshan of the Lord. And irrespective of whether the person is a thief, a rogue, criminal, Krishna always smiles. Whether people glorify him or blame him, he smiles. So apart from his matchless, transcendental, beautiful features, his smile makes him very attractive and easily approachable by all. Now we can in no way compete with the beauty of the Lord, right? So to be pleasing to all does not mean that we need to be very beautiful. Irrespective of the fact that whether we are ugly or good looking, Lord has blessed a great gift to all human beings, and that is the ability to smile. It takes lesser number of muscles to smile than to frown. Do you know that? It takes lesser number of muscles to smile than to frown. So it is always better to have a smiling face. If we go with a morose face, why is your face like rotten banana? Maharaj used to say, why is your face like a rotten banana? Look at Krishna's face. He has nice watermelon-like face. How nicely he is smiling. Please, we don't want rotten banana faces. We want watermelon-like faces. So, when we meet any living entity, we should be really thankful to the Krishna for that opportunity. Instead, if you frown at each other, then the relationship gets all the more strained. There's a nice saying that smile is a small curve which can straighten up so many things. And also, smile is free of cost. We don't have to pay. We don't lose anything by smiling. In fact, it makes us, as well as the people whom we interact with, right, feel better. We might have experienced that when we are in a critical condition in hospital, a small smile from the nurse or doctor or anyone around us psychologically gives us some hope and courage. Correct? So can we imagine how worse it will be if people frown at us in that condition? Just like how staying in hospital is miserable, every living entity is suffering in this material world. So a gentle smile and pleasing words will be like an oasis in this desert. But Guru Maharaj always quotes a very nice words from Shastras. Priya Vakya Pradhanena Sarve Tushyanti Jantavaha Tasma Tadeva Vakya Vaktavyam Vachaneshu Kim Dharitritaha. By speaking pleasing words, all the living entities are satisfied. By speaking pleasing words, all the living entities are satisfied. Therefore, always speak sweetly. Why are you so poor in your sentences? So, as practicing devotees, it's all the more important for all of us to imbibe this quality of having a pleasing demana, so that we will give courage and hope to the living entities whom we meet, and will also inspire them to take through the process of bhakti. In the verses 51 and 52, Narada Muni says, now again, he's telling, the Lord is always smiling, and the devotee should constantly see the Lord in this form, as he looks very mercifully towards the devotee. In this way, the meditator should look forward toward the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the bestower of all benedictions. The Narada Muni says, one who meditates in this way, concentrating his mind upon the all auspicious form of the Lord, upon the always auspicious form of the Lord, is very soon freed from all material contamination. And it does not come down from the meditation upon the Lord. So in this verse, Narada Muni is very nicely stressing on the importance of taking darshan of the Lord. When we are chanting the Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Or the Mahamantra also, devotees advise us that to fix our mind on chanting, we should try to chant sitting in front of the deity or any picture of the Lord or Tulsi Devi. Because if we keep seeing other things, then dhyayato vishyan pumsaha. Mind is so tricky that our thoughts wander here and there, and we will no longer be chanting with proper concentration on holy names. It is recommended by Shastras that Grihasthas should carry on deity worship at their homes also. Deities are not like showcase dolls, but they are merciful manifestation of the Lord Himself in our homes. Presence of deity has a great impact on each and every person in the family. If even some person is atheistic or does not have any faith in the Lord, simply if they take the darshan of the deity, honor Lord's prasadam, has a gradual impact and brings a change in the consciousness of all. So, in this wonderful purport to this verse, Prabhupada very nicely says, by this prescribed method, one can practice concentration of the Lord until one is so fixed that he remains in trance, thinking always of the form of the Lord. So, the word used here is Eka Bhutena, which means with great attention and concentration. If one concentrates on the descriptions of the bodily features of the Lord, one will never fall down. So even just hearing Narada all the descriptions of and visualizing, you will be very, very uplifted. That's why in Bhagavatam 2:322, very nicely mentions the eyes which do not look at the symbolic representations of the personality of God Vishnu, his forms, name, quality, etc., are like those printed on the plumes of the peacock. It is nothing else. So the purport Prabhupada very nicely mentions all the members of the household. Please, this is very important for all of us to understand. All the members of the household should engage in the daily service of the Lord, beginning from morning 4 a.m. till night 10 p.m. by performing Mangalarti, Niranjana, Archana, Puja, Kirtana, Shingara, Bhoga, Vaikali, Sandhyarti, right? Shayanarti, etc., etc. The whole package which Prabhupada has given. The engagement in such worship of the deity under the direction of a bona fide spiritual master will greatly help the householders to purify their existence and make rapid progress in spiritual life. Simple theoretic book knowledge is not sufficient. Book knowledge is theoretical, whereas the Archana process is practical. If one is unable to maintain a temple at home, he will go to another temple where all the above performances are regularly executed. So, visiting the temple of a devotee and looking at the profusely decorated forms of the Lord, well dressed in a well decorated form, sanctified temple naturally infuses the mundane mind, right, with spiritual inspiration. In the 54th verse, Narada Muni gives the mantra to worship the Supreme Lord to Dhruv Maharaj and also explains the process to be followed for worshipping him. So he says, starts with Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Mantrenanena devasya kurya dravyamim buddha saparyam vividhe dravye desha kala vibhagavit. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudeva. This is the 12-syllable mantra for worshipping Lord Krishna, which he gives to Dhruv Maharaj. So one should install the physical forms of the Lord And with the chanting of the mantra, one should offer flowers and fruits and other varieties of foodstuffs exactly according to the rules and regulations prescribed by the authorities. But this should be done in consideration of place, time, and attendant conveniences and inconveniences. This is what in the translation. In the purport, Prabhupada says, the prescribed rules, as stated here by Narada Muni, are that one should accept the mantra through a bona fide spiritual master and hear the mantra in the right ear, right here. Not only should one chant or murmur the mantra, but in front of him, he must have the deity or physical form of the Lord. Not only must one receive the mantra from the bona fide spiritual master, like Narada Muni, or is represented in the disciplic succession, but one must chant the mantra, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And not only one must chant, but we should also offer whatever foodstuff is available in this part of the world, according to time and convenience. So not India and foreigners, right? You may not have, things may not be available as just like in India. So in this verse, we find Narada Muni is teaching us the importance of chanting Kirtanam as well as deity worship, Archanam. We might wonder if chanting the holy names of Lord alone could give us love for Godhead, why should we take initiation or deity worship? Prabhupada in his unparalleled purport to verse 7.5.23, while explaining the process of Archanam, he clarifies our doubt. He says, one might ask that what is the necessity of being initiated? The answer is that even though the chanting of the holy names is sufficient to enable one to progress in spiritual life to the standard of love of Godhead, one is nonetheless susceptible to contamination because of possessing a material body. Consequently, special stress is given to the Archana Vidhi. One should therefore regularly take advantage of both the Bhagavata process and the Pancharatriki process. So Prabhupada also mentions that if any householder devotee is circumstantially unable to worship the deity, then he must at least see the deity worship, and in this way he may achieve success also. If you cannot do, at least you can see. That is why you go to the temple or any neighbor on your own devotee's house. So deity worship brings discipline in us. Very important. It makes regular, it becomes regular. It brings discipline in us and instills cleanliness and purity in us. So this is what is the benefit of deity worship. It brings discipline, it instills cleanliness and purity in us. So it should be done according to the suitable arrangements given by the spiritual master. He says, Grahastha devotees are generally engaged in material activities. And therefore, if they do not take to deity worship, their falling down is positively assured. Deity worship means following the rules and regulations precisely. That will keep one steady in devotional service. In verses 55 and 56, translation says, one should worship the Lord by offering pure water, pure flower garlands, fruits, flowers, and vegetables, which are available in the forest, or by collecting newly grown grasses, small buds of flowers, or even the skins of trees, and if possible, by offering tulsi leaves, which are very dear to Supreme Personality God. It is possible to worship a form of the Lord made of physical elements such as earth, water, pulp, wood, and metal. In the forest, one can make a form with no more than earth and water and worship him according to the above principles. A devotee who has full control over himself should be very sober and peaceful and must be satisfied simply by eating whatever fruits and vegetables are available in the forest. This is what he is giving to Dhruva Maharaj. So Narada Muni knew that Dhruva Maharaj is in the forest and he's a 5-year-old boy. So he might not be able to offer bhoga cooked in a very elaborate manner, just like we do. Nor can he get deity made of pulp, wood, or metal. So as a kind spiritual master, knowing the position of his dear disciple, Narada Muni advises him to make a form of the Lord with earth and water and offer whatever flower, fruit, leaf, and water is available in the forest. So the word Shuchibihi means purified, and Shasta means newly grown grasses. Be it fruit, flower, leaf, or water, whatever is being offered to the Lord must be pure and fresh. So Narada Muni also mentions that offerings should include tulsi leaves, which are very dear to Krishna. So through these descriptions, Narada Muni is also revealing the simple and kind-hearted nature of the Lord. He does not demand for any elaborate preparations. Chappan bhog, no. But is satisfied with these simple offerings done by his devotees with love. That's why Bhagavad Gita 9.26, Krishna himself declares, Patram pushpam phalam toyam yomi bhaktya prayachati tadaham bhakti upahartam ashnami prayatatmanah. If one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a flower, fruit, or water, I will accept it. So Lord is simple, and so is the process of worshipping Him, right? So we should not unnecessarily complicate the process whimsically. Prabhupada very nicely clarifies in the purport to this verse as to what should be the mood of the devotee. He says the devotee should not be anxious about cooking food. Should not be anxious about cooking food. Whatever is available in the forest or in the city among the fruit and vegetable groups should be offered to the deity. And the devotee should be satisfied eating that. You should not be anxious to have very palatable dishes. Of course, wherever it is possible, one should offer the deities the best foodstuffs prepared within the category of fruits and vegetables, cooked or uncooked. So the important factor is that the devotee should be regulated. That is one of the good qualifications of a devotee, regulated. You should not hanker to satisfy the tongue with a particular kind of foodstuff. You should be satisfied to eat whatever prasada is available by the grace of the Lord. So it doesn't matter for the Lord whether it is one item or 10 items or whether it is prepared by human being or demigod. The Lord accepts the offerings when it is done with genuine love, humility, and devotion. So when we cook bhoga for the Lord or go to the market for buying grains, vegetables, fruits, etc., our motive should be to please the Lord and not to satisfy our own senses. Very important point to understand. Then our consciousness will be purified. We should not do these things in a mechanical manner, like a ritual. No, we should always remember that deity is non-different from the Supreme Lord Krishna and has kindly manifested in our homes in that form. So, with gratitude and devotion, if we prepare and offer the bhoga to the Lord, then by His grace, we'll be able to relish the bliss of the service, the taste of prasadam, and gradually become steady in devotional service. In the verse 57, Narumani is telling, my dear Dhruva, besides worshipping the deity and chanting the mantra 3 times a day, you should meditate upon the transcendental activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in His different incarnations, as exhibited by His supreme will and personal potencies. So Narumani is advising Dhruva Maharaj that besides doing deity worship and chanting, it is also important that we meditate upon the transcendental activities of the Lord. So much pastime, Krishna Katha. That is also important. We do deity worship regularly. We do the chanting Hare Krishna mantra. But hearing the Krishna Katha, so meditating on those transcendental activities of the Lord is also important. So scriptures like Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam are full of transcendental activities of the Lord. So since we are present in the material body and we are susceptible to contamination, there is always a chance that we might tend to lose our faith and the taste in the process of bhakti if we don't meditate on the transcendental activities of the Lord. So Krishna Katha is also very, very important. On the other hand, by regularly and seriously meditating on the transcendental activities of the Lord, our faith in the bhakti process will improve, not just gradually, in leaps and bounds. Prabhupada in his wonderful purport to 118.11, he says, the more we hear about the transcendental activities of the Lord, as they are stated in Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, the more we can know about his transcendental nature and thus make definite progress on the path back to Godhead. So, by regularly hearing about his pastimes, activities, and his nature, we will also gradually develop the transcendental nature and qualities of the Lord. So, such remembrance of Krishna's activities will have a positive effect in improving the quality of chanting and deity worship also. Our quality of chanting also will improve. So, all Vaishnava Acharyas, like the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavana, His Divine Grace Bhaktivinoda Thakur, His Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada, His Divine Grace Bhakti Swami, Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, they were all engaged in deity worship. Still, see, they were all engaged. Still, they spent so much time in studying, writing, and speaking about the transcendental activities of the Lord. This shows the importance of meditating and remembering the transcendental activities, attributes, and qualities of the Lord. In fact, if we chant the holy names nicely without offenses, then gradually we will become more and more inquisitive to know and learn about the transcendental qualities of Krishna. And then ultimately, in the advanced stage of devotional service, it becomes so difficult for us to keep away from speaking and hearing about the glories of the Lord. We cannot keep quiet. We have to speak. That is what Srila Prabhupada beautifully says in the purport of 2.1.11. Hearing of the holy name gradually promotes one to the stage of hearing about his form, about his attributes, his pastimes, and so on. And thus, the necessity of chanting of his glories develops successively. So Srila Prabhupada says that the necessity of chanting his glories develops. So necessity of the chanting of his glories develops successfully, which means that the chanting of the glories of the Lord becomes a necessity and not an option at the advanced stage of hearing. One cannot help but keep glorifying the Lord continuously. See, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was so intense in his eagerness to glorify Krishna that at times he would speak as if he had 1,000 mouths. Lord Anantadev is glorifying the Supreme Lord with his 1,000 mouths for thousands of millions years, but still he is not satisfied with his service. So we can see from the advice of Narada Muni and also from Srila Prabhupada's translated purports that the processes like Shravanam, Kirtanam, Archanam, Smaranam, they all are interlinked, and performing one process nicely positively feeds onto the other, with the ultimate result of developing a very steady transcendental love and devotion for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the 58th verse, he says, one should follow in the footsteps of previous devotees regarding how to worship the Supreme Lord with the prescribed paraphernalia, or one should offer worship within the heart by reciting the mantra to the Personality of Godhead, who is non-different from the mantra. So in this shloka, Narada Muni reveals to Dhruva Maharaj about the simplicity and potency of devotional service. He says that in situations where one is not able to worship with the physical form of the Lord, one can still worship the Lord within the heart by reciting the mantras. And the merciful Lord, who is also non-different from the mantras, accepts such kind of mental worship also. So in his wonderful purport of 7.5.23, while describing the Archanam process, Prabhupada mentions in the Narada Pancharatra, it is stated by Lord Narayana that worship of the deity within the mind is called Manasa Puja. One can become free from the four miseries by this method. Sometimes worship from the mind can be independently executed. According to the instruction of Avirhotra Muni, one of the Navayogendras, as mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam, one may worship the deity by chanting all the mantras. 8 kinds of deities are mentioned in the Shastras, and the mental deity is one of them. So Prabhupada also mentions about the description given in Brahmas Vaivarta Puran about a poor innocent Brahmana who lived in the city of Pratishthanapura. Once in the assembly of Brahmanas, he heard about how the deities worshipped in the temple and how worship could be done within the mind also. After this incident, the Brahmana, having taken bath in the Godavari river, he began mentally worshipping the deity. He would watch the temple within his mind, and then in his imagination, he would bring water from all the sacred rivers in golden and silver water pots. He was not conjuice in mind. Now you can do whatever, very brilliantly, like can very elaborately you can do. So he collected all kinds of valuable paraphernalia for worship. And he worshipped the deity very gorgeously, beginning from bathing the deity and ending with offering arati. Thus he felt great happiness. After many years had passed in this way, one day, within his mind, he cooked nice sweet rice with ghee to worship the deity. So he placed the sweet rice on a golden dish and offered it to the Lord Krishna. But he felt that the sweet rice was very hot. And therefore, he touched it with his finger. It's all in the mind. The mind only is touching his finger. Immediately felt that his finger had been burnt by the hot sweet rice. Thus he began to lament. While the Brahmana was in pain, Lord Vishnu in Vaikuntha began smiling. And the goddess of fortune inquired from the Lord, why he is smiling? The Lord Vishnu then ordered his associates to bring the Brahmana to Vaikuntha. Thus the Brahmana attained liberation of Samipya, the facility of living near the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So on the battlefield of Kurukshetra also, when Bhishma Deva was lying on the bed of arrows, he was unable to use any physical paraphernalia to welcome or even worship the Lord. And all the wonderful sages and devotees who had come to meet him, he was not able to do. But according to time and place, he received all of them and offered wonderful prayers to the Supreme Lord. Bhishma's prayers. One should not do mental worship out of laziness or miserliness. This is important, right? You can do mental worship, but it should not be doing to out of laziness. If you can do it physically, you have to do it. So Lord is omniscient, and so He can very well detect the motive and mood of the person doing the offering, and He will reject this offering. If he's motivated, everything Krishna in the heart, He knows. So the point to be learned is that we should offer the best of things to Krishna for worshipping Him. But in cases where facilities are not available, you can still worship Him mentally by offering prayers. In any case, the worship or connection with the Lord should not stop, but should continue with full velocity. See, the 64th verse, I'm just skipping maybe some of the verses because more important words, so it will be connecting very easily. See, procrastination is the thief of time. Procrastination means tomorrow, tomorrow, to kal karenge, kal karenge. So procrastination is the thief of time. We must cultivate the habit of performing our duties right away, immediately, without postponing them. And this holds good not only for duties related to the material world, but also to our spiritual sadhana. If we think that we have plenty of time and keep postponing our service, we will later struggle to even perform the simplest of things. So, while explaining the greatness of Dhruva Maharaj's determined meditation, Narada Muni is just speaking to Uttanapadi's father about the determination of Dhruva Maharaj, his son. He said, "My dear king, your son is very competent. He will perform activities which would be impossible even for great kings and sages. Very soon he will complete his task and come back home. You should know that he will also spread your reputation all over the world." So Dhruva Maharaj was determined that he would see the Lord by undergoing the austerities suggested by Narada Muni and would not return home until he becomes successful in his attempt. That was his determination. Even though he was a small boy, he never flickered from his sadhana, but kept on improving his performance day by day. So much so, he pleased the Supreme Lord within a short span of few months, 6 months. See, in the story of hare and the tortoise also, right? We find that though the tortoise obviously had no chance to move faster than the rabbit, it attempted to take part in the race and kept on moving in a slow and steady manner. It was able to win the race. The hare, on the other hand, due to his procrastinating nature and lack of focus, lost the race. Sometimes we think, sorry. See, sometimes we think that reaching and attaining Krishna is not possible in this birth. This is because of our poor determination. If we are determined, then in 1 second we will be able to reach him. Srimad Bhagavatam gives us wonderful example of Guru Maharaj, who by his undeviated and determined devotional service was able to meet the Lord in person within a short span of time. So the verse 71 explains how Dhruva Maharaj performed his meditation in the forest after receiving the instructions from his spiritual master, Narada Muni. It says elsewhere, Dhruva Maharaj, having arrived at Madhuvana, took his bath in the river Yamuna and observed fasting in the night with great care and attention. After that, as advised by the great Siddh Narada Muni, he engaged himself in worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead. See, the verse Rishi Adeshanena, as per advice of Narada Muni, is a noteworthy in this verse. Dhruva Maharaj was able to attain perfection in his spiritual practice because he followed the instructions of his spiritual master with great care and attention. This point is we have to imbibe. That is, we can attain perfection in spiritual practice by following the instructions of the spiritual master with great care and attention. In Kali Yuga, so many thoughts drive away our mind from Krishna. So we must make a sincere endeavor to save ourselves from such unfavorable circumstances. Sorry. And meditate constantly on the advice of spiritual master and practice it to the best of our capacity. The purport of this verse, Prabhupada quotes an instruction by Sri Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakura that if we want to be successful in our attempt to go back to Godhead, we must very seriously act according to the instructions of the spiritual master. That is the way of perfection. There need not be any anxiety over attaining perfection because if one follows the instruction given by the spiritual master, he is sure to attain perfection. Our only concern should be how to execute the order of the spiritual master. That's it. In the purport of 72, verse number 72, by glorifying Dhruva Maharaj, Prabhupada gives a punching instruction. It is our duty to remember always that in comparison to Dhruva Maharaj, we are insignificant. We cannot do anything like Dhruva Maharaj. How he did for self-realization, because we are all absolutely incompetent to execute such service. But by Lord Chaitanya's mercy, we have been given all concessions possible for this age. So at least we should always remember that neglect of our prescribed duties in devotional service will not make us successful in the mission we have undertaken. It is our duty to follow the footsteps of Guru Maharaj, for he was very determined. We should also be determined to finish our duties in executing devotional service in this life. We should not wait for another life to finish our job. So we should not think that since there are 8,400,000 varieties of life, it is enough if we have just started our devotional service in this lifetime and attain perfection in later future births. No. If we while away our the time in this manner, then we are sure to lose the race like the rabbit. Procrastination. Then another beautiful verse, 4880, 80th verse. When Dhruva Maharaj became practically one in heaviness with Lord Vishnu, the total consciousness, due to his fully concentrating and closing all the holes of his body, the total universal breathing became choked up. And all the great demigods in the planetary systems felt suffocated and thus took shelter of the Supreme Personality of God. In the purport of this verse, Prabhupada very nicely explained this example of Dhruva Maharaj closing the holes of his personal body and thereby closing the breathing holes of the total universe clearly indicates that a devotee, by his personal devotional service, can influence all the people of the whole world to become devotees of the Lord. If there is only one pure devotee in pure Krishna consciousness, he can change the total consciousness of the world into Krishna consciousness. This is what Prabhupada is saying in his purport. If there is only one pure devotee in pure Krishna consciousness, he can change the total consciousness of the world into Krishna consciousness. This is not very difficult to understand if we study the behavior of Dhruva Maharaj. The word abhidhyayati is very important here. It means when meditating with full concentration. So while meditating on the lotus feet of the Lord, we should have full concentration. So Dhruva Maharaj is an acharya, and by undergoing severe austerities and penances, he teaches us how one should execute devotional service. We should always remember that to become a bona fide devotee of the Lord is not an easy task. But in this age, by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it has been made very easy. So Srila Prabhupada very nicely mentions in his purport of 72, right? We saw, if we do not follow even the liberal instruction of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, how can we expect to discharge our regular duties in devotional service? It is not possible in this age to follow Dhruva Maharaj in his austerity. But the principles must be followed. We should not disregard the regularity principles given by our spiritual master, for they make it easier for the conditioned soul. See, we have not seen Dhruva Maharaj physically, but we have seen and heard Srila Prabhupada, who has created and is still continuing to create an unfathomable impact on millions of people all over the world. Srila Prabhupada is the best example. He has taken the world by storm in such a short time. He has influenced all the people of the world by building 180 temples in a span of 11 years and spread Krishna consciousness movement worldwide. He made the process easier for us. See, in the Bhagavatam 3:33 verse, very nicely explained about the quality of determination. It says, my dear Lord, although personally you have nothing to do, you have distributed your energies in the interactions of the material modes of nature. And for that reason, creation, maintenance, and dissolution of the cosmic manifestation take place. My dear Lord, you are self-determined and are the supreme personality of Godhead for all living entities. For them, you created this material manifestation. And although you are one, your diverse energies can act multifariously. This is inconceivable to us. So this is a verse spoken by Mother Devahuti, glorifying Lord Kapil Deva, her son. This is a God, Krishna himself. So one whose determination is never futile is very important for us to understand. See, being determined is one of the 64 qualities of the Lord, as described by Srila Rupa Goswami in Nectar of Devotion. Being parts and parcels of Krishna, the living entities also exhibit this quality of determination. The first point, meaning of determination. Determination does not mean simply sit in one place and with closed eyes. For many people, that is also determination. But in the context of devotional service, Prabhupada explains the word determination. Any person who observes regulatory principles and fulfills his promises by practical activity is called determination. So in case of Krishna, we know that Krishna fulfills his vows by doing some practical activity. Please see this. To save Draupadi, he personally went. To save Gajendra, he went himself. So he engaged in some practical activity to keep his vows to protect the devotees. In the Nectar of Devotion, Prabhupada says, once Satyabhama, one of Krishna's queens, wanted the Parijata flower in Indra's kingdom, and Krishna promised to deliver it. But Indra refused to part with it, with this Parijata flower. Therefore, there is a great fight with Krishna and the Pandavas on one side and all the demigods on the other. Ultimately, Krishna defeated all of them and took the Parijata flower, which he presented to his queen. So this is how he keeps his vows. So in regard to that occurrence, Krishna told Narada Muni, my dear great sage of demigods, now you can declare to the devotees in general and to the non-devotees in particular that in this matter of taking the Parijata flower, all the demigods, Gandharvas, Nagas, Rakshasas, Yakshas, they tried to defeat me, but none could make me break my promise to my queen. There is another promise by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita to the effect that his devotee will never be vanquished. Namai Bhaktya Pranashyati. So a sincere devotee is always engaged in the distance loving service to the Lord should know for certain that Krishna will never break his promise. He will always protect his devotees in every circumstances. I think I overshoot the time, so please give me another 5 minutes. We can close now. The second point is Krishna's determination is absolute. In his purport to Bhagavatam 3.33.3, Prabhupada writes, the devotee says to Kapila Muni, your determination is absolute. There is no question of your fulfilling your will with the help of anyone else besides yourself. You are in the end the supreme soul and the supreme controller. Your will, therefore, cannot be checked by anyone else. So Krishna, he need not have any support. He can do himself. Whereas in the material world, we always need some support to fulfill our determination. We take some vows, now New Year vows, pledge. We take some vows and to fulfill it, we need some paraphernalia or support. But none can check Krishna's plans. We say that Lord Ram conquered Lanka with the help of monkeys. But that is not the fact. Lord Rama simply wanted to engage those monkeys in service. Otherwise, Lord does not need anyone's support. The third point is importance of the quality of determination. In his conclusion to the book Teaching of Lord Kapila, Prabhupada very emphatically writes, there are many contaminations within the heart, and the people in this age are engaged in many sinful activities, illicit sex, meat eating, intoxication, and gambling. The whole world is revolving about these things. Yet, despite this, we have to spread this Krishna conscious movement. There may be many obstacles, but they can all be transcended by Krishna's mercy. We only have to be determined in our devotion. The rest will follow. This is the essence of Lord Kapila's instructions to his mother Devoti. So with this, we can understand how much important is the quality of determination. See, we have heard the word Diksha, which means initiation. The word Dikshit means a person who is determined. An initiated devotee means a determined devotee. We are determined to observe certain rules and regulations and to follow certain principles. So in the 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains who are all the persons who are very dear to him. And in those verses, he explains the various qualities a person should possess so that he can become dear to him. One of the important qualities in that is Dhrida Nishchaya, meaning one who is engaged in devotional service with determination. See, there are 6 principles of surrender. And the first principle is Anukulyasya Sankalpaha, meaning according accepting things favorable to devotional service. Anukulasya Sankalpaha. So here word Sankalpa again means that we should be determined that we will accept only those things which are favorable to devotional service. And the second principle is that we should be determined to reject things not favorable to devotional service. So we cannot do anything like what Dhruva Maharaj did for self-realization because we're absolutely incompetent to execute such service. But by Lord Chaitanya's mercy, we have been given all concessions possible for this age. So at least we should always remember that neglect of our prescribed duties in devotional service will not make us successful in the mission we have undertaken. It is our duty to follow in the footsteps of Dhruva Maharaj, for he was very determined. We should also be determined to finish our duties in executing devotional service in this life. We should not wait for another life to finish our job. So in the last paragraph of the last verse, 4.882, the purport, in the translation, Prabhupada says, the Supreme Personality of Godhead replied, because the demigods went and told, no, we are not able to breathe, this suffocation is there. So Krishna replies, my dear demigods, do not be perturbed by this. It is due to the severe austerity and full determination of the son of King Uttanapada, who is now fully absorbed in thought of me. He has obstructed the universal breathing process. You can safely return to your respective homes. I shall stop this boy in his severe acts of austerities, and you will be saved from this situation. And then Krishna came and gave the darshan to Dhruva Maharaj. And Dhruva Maharaj wanted to pray, right? But he was not able to do. So Krishna touched with his conch shell on his forehead. And then he started wonderful prayers. Yonta Pravishya, Mamavashi Prasuptam. Right? That beautiful verse was there. So I'll stop here. Thank you very much, Professor Mataji, for giving me this opportunity to glorify the Lord and purify myself and everybody. Vancha kalpatarupicha kripa sandhubhayevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavim. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Sorry for taking a little longer, but so many verses are there we have to complete. So I try to take essence of all these verses and whatever lessons we can learn, practical lessons. I hope it was useful. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Sri Prabhu.
Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna,
Krishna.
Prabhuji. Pranam to everybody assembled. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.